Welcome to We Fix Real Estate. Fred, today we're talking about low prices. What do you have to say?
Low prices.
Let's talk about low prices in real estate. What's going
Yeah.
on?
So here's what's still happening, and it's getting worse. Um, and it all rolls in with the change in the commissions. What agents are doing are pricing houses, and we've complained about this before. Let's say a house they put up for $899 with the intention of it going for about $1.3 million. So what they're doing is they're just wasting a lot of people's time, making people upset. And it's still happening. And they're also playing this game because of the commission roll in. They're kind of saying, hey, look, we'll just keep getting this higher. And that's why you pay us all this percentage and we know how to do it. And you throw in that buyer broker fee because they're telling them the biggest lie in the world, which is no one will show your property unless you pay the buyer broker 2.5% of the sale price. Okay. I was just thinking, what year is this? And it's 2024. So let me tell you to sellers, please listen. Here's what buyers actually do. They go and they look at the internet. 98% of deals are done on the internet. Okay. So yeah, you might lose a couple of people from this, but what they do is they look at things on the internet. They go to open houses by themselves and then they hire agents. The agents don't tell them what homes to see. It's a very, very small percentage of people that actually have that situation where they're going to need guidance from an agent. But because of this new agreement, what they're not supposed to do is they're not supposed to steer just because the house is paying a buyer broker fee that you go to that person. Mm-hmm. So if they're following the law, it doesn't matter. It can be zero. And you're also, and this is the biggest thing, you're already negotiating against yourself. You're giving away 2.5% of the sale price. And maybe someone came to you with an offer where you didn't have to pay any, or you only had to pay 1%. You don't know. 2.5% is not a set in stone number. We're back to the Taft-Hartley Act violations because that's price fixing. So the other thing that I can tell agents is that you can keep trying this, but just to let you know, the plaintiff's attorneys and the United States Justice Department are keeping an incredibly tight eye on this, and they're just going to mess it up. And technically, by the way, this agreement has not been approved by the judge. Sometime in November, they're actually going to the judge to get it allegedly rubber stamped, but it could change. It could really change. So sellers, please don't listen to this. And you've heard the reasons why. I don't know if René, you have anything to add about this?
Here's a bigger problem, right? A bigger problem is that since agents are still trying to get away with giving 2.5% concessions, buyers go to the open houses or they find out that there's some form of concession. So there's the expectation that there's that concession still in place. So there's a disconnect between the buyer's understanding that at the end of the day, it's about the net. I think buyers should not want any buyer broker fees to be paid out of the seller's pocket because it's only increasing the sale price. So I think it's a misguided idea of wanting the seller to pay for the buyer broker fee.
Yeah, let's do the mathematics too. If you're going to buy a $500,000 house and you're going to pay the agent $15,000, what happens is now your sale price is higher by $15,000. So somebody is paying more title insurance, more transfer tax. Your annual real estate taxes are going to go higher. Let's say you're borrowing 80% of the sale price, and now it's 80% of 515. Instead of 80% of 500. So you're paying more interest over the life of the loan. So you're financing really 80% of the buyer broker fee, which you never needed to do the way the system was before. But
Refresh us what the system was before for the people that aren't pro real estate.
The realtor would basically tell you that you don't have to pay me anything. The seller pays my commission, which they did. It was all part of the price. That's what everybody did all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's been bifurcated into, you pay your guy, you just pay your guy, and you can't offer any compensation to the buyer on the multiple listing service. So they've been doing it every other way that they can try.
Following along with that, the other problem is that buyers want to submit offers in place still. And with doing that, they're forgetting that they are making their offer weaker. Right?
Yeah, because it's all, I was going to talk about, it's all about the net. The calculation you must do now is, okay, the seller's going to get, here's my bid of $1 million. And the seller is, we want him to pay our $15,000 of commission. So he's really getting $985. So you got to think that's the magic number. And a listing agent's got to do that calculation too. What are you going to walk away with before all your settlement costs? And so that's the way you have to address your contracts. What's the seller going to net? So it's a net deal, not just that, number that you put on the front of the contract anymore. It's simple. Subtraction.
It sounds
simple. You got to remember to do it.
I'm not quite understanding it, and I don't know.
Okay, here's the way it is. So you say, I want to make an offer of $1 million on a property, and I want the seller to pay $15,000 to the buyer broker for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what the seller is doing is taking $1 million offer, but also now has to pay $15,000. So the seller is walking away with $985,000, not $1 million. So he's going to compare it to somebody else's offer who might say, $1 million, you don't pay my buyer broker. Well, that's $15,000 better for him. He takes that offer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and where does the buyer come up with that $15,000? Can they roll it into the mortgage?
No. That's why we're asking the seller to pay it. It can be paid in cash. It can be paid as a credit towards your closing costs up to the limitations of what the lenders will allow. But this buyer broker fee is not allowed to be rolled into the mortgage. It was never been able to be rolled in the mortgage.
So the seller gets the $1 million and then they give the buyer broker $15,000.
Right. So it's less money that they're walking away with.
But if the buyer pays it, then the seller.
Yeah. Great. Doesn't have to. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
The buyer signs a contract with his broker, her broker, their broker. It says, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars or X percentage of the sale price as your commission.
Mm-hmm.
We as the buyer are going to pay it. Now there's other ways of doing it, asking the seller to do it, doing that seller credit, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Adding it to your sale price though.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the thing. And that's what you have to remember.
Okay.
I love this statistic. Every time interest rates drop 0.5%, the number of people who are now qualified to get a loan and buy a house is 5 million more people. That's pretty cool. That's United States. I don't know what the breakdown is. But obviously there's still some places that don't have enough housing, places that people are just avoiding, because of natural disasters, lack of insurance, climate has a lot to do with it. I mean, it's just getting hotter, just getting colder. We had snow in the mountains here, the Sierras over the last weekend. It's like we've become the Swiss Alps, I guess.
Yeah. For context, we're recording this at the end of August, 2020.
Yeah. So anyway, we could bitch about that, but let's get into rates. Here's the thing about rates. They're coming down, but I want you to understand, this is very important. The day the Fed drops, whatever they're going to drop, a quarter or a half, that doesn't mean mortgage interest rates just drop right then and there. All the professionals who trade mortgage-backed securities already know what's going to happen. They have already traded this. So every day mortgage rates change, and sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day because of what's called a mortgage-backed security, which is like a bond, kind of like a stock. It's traded at different prices, and there's different options. There's a whole bunch of things. It's that kind of stuff. You're interested, you can Google it, but it's not like the Fed has control of the mortgage rate. It doesn't work like that. It's completely market controlled. So once the Fed does it, nobody's going to care. Rates aren't going to move on that day. Unless they put out a statement saying, hey, this is the last time we're ever going to do it, or something crazy like that. But no, look at rates now. I mean, you can always for free just hunt rates no matter what state you're in at arrivva.com/rates. We have an automated thingy. But what's been happening is they've been slowly coming down. I priced something in the 5s for an FHA and the low 6s for conventional. So it's really, it depends on the loan to value, credit scores, and all that stuff. But it's getting better. I've heard from this person I follow on TikTok that she's had so many phone calls from veterans trying to do the IRRIL, which is the automatic basic rate reduction for veterans, because they just do it with no cost. For VA loans, man, those things are in the 5s. So if you got anything, 200,000, it's over 6, do it. Get in line early. So it's great. Refis will help keep the economy kind of stimulated a little bit, even though we're going through a little thing. It's not a crash. It's not like 2008. Got nothing to do with it. 2008. Let me just put this on the record. My question, the biggest question I have that's still unanswered, is how did Ben Bernanke and Alan Greenspan not figure out that option arms were toxic? Did they not have some curiosity and read the guidelines? And it just, every time I looked at those loans, it just said imminent collapse. And it happened. Giving out 100% loan to value, 580 credit scores, with no job verification, nothing verification. And hello, what do you think is going to happen? Especially when you're ripping these people off with 3.25 over coffee. I mean, just hello.
I would find a few of those. It would have been nice.
They're actually available. We have a lender that does them, but they're very controlled at this point. So, the whole problem there is people's payment went from $1,000 a month to $2,800. Boom, thank you very much. Because of negative amortization, getting to 115%. Anyway, they just do the neg am at the end.
Right. I mean, we always talk about the flaws of the 2008 market and the crash and the crash and the crash. But there was also people who bought in 2006 with 0 down, and now they're selling their house that was $500,000 to almost $3 million, right? So there's also those success stories. That's actually the seller that we've got coming up. It's yeah, you was telling me for me, 2006 was the best time of my life.
Awesome. Awesome. Time did well. Anyway, moving on. Let's, if you want a rebate, and guaranteed to get a rebate without any BS, start looking, and this is for consumers who want rebates because we give them, go start looking at new construction, but don't look at them right away, because each new construction place has rules. And the usual rule is you have to show up with your agent the first time you go there. So you can punch around on phone and internet, and especially if you call on the phone to the sales offices, tell them you're going to get a buyer broker, find out the details, and then find out the details, find the place you want, and then make an appointment with us. We'll go over how the whole rebate works, and we'll guide you through the new construction. We have Toll Brothers today. Where's it at? San Ramon, René?
And San Ramon.
Yeah, San Ramon. It's a townhouse. Toll's been around a long time. I mean, you know, everybody's got their good and their bad, but basically they were the kings of the McMansion back east for years. So, yeah, check your builders out. But they are offering rebates because they're not part of the multiple listing service, and they're looking to draw people in and show me the money. So, but don't tell this to any other agents.
You say they're not on the multiple listings, so you're not going to be able to find them on Redfin. You're not going to be able to find them on Zillow. You basically
may find them on Zillow. Zillow does do new construction listings. That's a good point. Thanks for reminding me of that. I don't know if Redfin does separately, but pretty much Zillow does. But also, there's actually a website we can send you to. I don't have the link handy. And you sign up. Hang on. Let me get this link. There you are. You're trying to here you are. Okay. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. I'll send it to you now, Drew, where this is kind of for lack of a better word, an MLS for new construction only. Okay. So it's showingnew.com/arrivva.com, DOTCOM. And go there, and the registration just comes to us. So, we're not going to bother you. So take a look, and you can put in all kinds of different filters for type, price, bedrooms, bathrooms, all that kind of good stuff. So there you go.
good tip if you're looking for new construction.
Yeah. Okay. What else do we want to talk about here?
I want to go back because I was
okay. Drew, you're in charge.
I didn't want to interrupt your brilliance. You talked about mortgage-backed securities. You talked about how they're openly traded on the market. So is this anticipated rate cut coming in September already priced in, or
yes,
Fed rate cuts not have any effect?
It was priced in on the day that the rates really dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks ago. I don't remember.
It's not that the Fed.
You remember, René?
Yeah. Well, here's a common conception, right, for Drew. So sometimes we get intro calls in which a client says, "Oh, I'm waiting for the Fed to drop rates because interest rates will go lower." I'd say that Fed rate cuts are like earnings, right? For a public company, right? So before that particular date, interest rates are already going higher or lower based on expectations, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so it's not going to be where like, oh, they're going to drop immediately, once it says, like, throughout the process of those dates, rates are already going lower or higher. Basically.
That really helps to paint it. So the Fed rate cuts do affect interest rates, but they're priced in or priced out, like they're for.
There can be a surprise one day. The market just decides to do something because of something happened.
Well, it's
a major event.
Similar to a stock market where if people are projecting the Fed is going to be raising interest rates, stocks are going to react on the future expectations.
Let me put it this way. In the world, if the shit hit the fan, war or whatever, the first thing that everybody moves their money to is United States Treasuries. It's the most secure thing in the world. The second is United States mortgage-backed securities. Mm-hmm. So if the shit hits the fan, it's great for interest rates. 9/11, good example.
What happened in 9/11? In terms of interest rates.
Very good. It dropped significantly because we thought it would be an economic collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of stayed there, and business kind of freaked out. Everybody freaked out. So,
yeah, so it takes current market sentiment is really what drives the interest rates. And then it's confirmed by actual
traders.
Yeah, traders. But the traders are pricing in a 0.5% change in September.
Yeah, they already know it.
If Powell comes out and says, nope, we're holding even, chances are interest rates are going to rise.
Exactly. But that's not going to happen. I mean, you just look at the economic.
If it does, then that will directly affect it that day.
It's actually,
honestly, if he says, we're in the shits, we're dropping interest rates 2% today, that would affect it very quickly.
Yeah, I think we'd get a little busier. But then again, there's no supply. So that's the problem. That's the biggest problem. And the worst thing about interest rates dropping is you're going to have more competition.
Yes.
But in areas where they can't sell houses or it's slow, that's a beautiful thing. So it depends on the market. All real estate is local.
So we're kind of anticipating interest rates declining over the next year. And I think most people are. I am. You were mentioning a few episodes back, there's a loan or a mortgage that actually factors that in. It's like a 2-1 buy down, or maybe
2-1 buy. Well, 2-1 buy down stays the same. It just, the rates change. That's all. Okay. So if it used to be 8, we get 6, 7, 8, and now the rate is 5. Now you get 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
That's all. That's simple. The program stays the same. It's just the rates change every day. Oh, so let me give you, let's go back to the 50s when you wanted to get a mortgage. And this is where all this thing about the Fed dropping the rate means something. What you would do is you would go to your local bank, and your local bank would have a CD offered. They'll pay you 3% interest for the next 5 years. You figure, okay, I'll put my money in there. Then what they do is they turn around with that CD and lend it back, could literally lend it back to you at, say, 6% for a new mortgage. So they made money, and they did, they didn't have 30-year fixed loans. They had, 5-year things because they had a match with the CD, maybe a 10-year CD. So, it's kind of tough, but there was FHA. There's been VA. So most people are USDA. So most people kind of use those with low down payment. USDA is 0, 3.5 for FHA and 0 for VA. So that's what people did. They did those loans, or they went to the bank and did the bank, and usually a, shorter term they could get. Then all of a sudden, these mortgage-backed securities were invented as a security back in the 70s. Lou Ranieri, I think was his name, who invented it. So it was revolutionary. And to this day, it's been fabulous. I mean, they put a lot of restrictions with Dodd-Frank, which they should have. So now you actually have to qualify for a mortgage if you're going to live there. So anyway, so that's why people think, on this day, the rates drop, because that's what happened at the bank. And you see the rate just posted right up on the screen.
Ah, I see.
There was the rate.
So the advice that I'm taking from this is that, rates may be going down, but the competition is going to be going up for finding a house. So if you see the house that you're looking for, you're better off not waiting. You're better off making an offer. You're better off getting into a mortgage, figuring you can refinance it down the road.
Let's just say talk to your broker, because it's going to depend on the market. You might be looking at a place where there's 50 homes for sale and there's 20 buyers. Okay. Or you're looking at Cupertino where there's 150 buyers
and 5 homes
for one house. Right. Exactly. So
really depends on the context of your situation.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's why the old saying of don't be sold on an agent telling you it's the best time to buy. Realistically, you really want to just find a house that you like. That you're never going to have a perfect market for your. The only way to market is if you know someone that's selling a house that is going to give it to you for cheaper than what the market rate is. That's the only way, realistically. I do want to say this. The only way that the theory is flawed in that interest rates go lower and prices go up is on the fact that there's a lot of people who have not sold property because they understand that they're not going to get the best price because interest rates are high. So there could be an additional amount of volume of sellers who just decide to list a property when rates go lower. So People,
Yeah.
I mean, I actually keep tabs on a lot of listing appointments where people, I tell them what the prices are going to be, and they don't want that price. They had expectations of much higher. And of course, throughout the consultation that I give them, I tell them, recent sales of exactly what sold in the vicinity, maybe in that same block. And I try to keep it, as recent as possible. And they say, oh, well, okay, well, if that's the case because of interest rates in the market, I'm just not going to sell now and I'll just sell later where interest rates are lower. And a lot of them, and I would think, you know what, they didn't like what I said, and maybe some other agent told them it can get higher, but a lot of them are not in the market, right? And to some people I have spoken to some I haven't. But the reality is that there's a lot of people who want to sell and they're just waiting for the right time. So
I guess it depends on where they're moving, because it seems illogical if you're waiting to sell your house for 1.4 million and right now it's 1.2 and you want to get that extra 200,000 and you're moving down the street. Well, that house that you're looking for that was 1.4 is now going to be 1.6.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be going up. But yeah. I guess if you're moving from San Francisco to South Dakota, potentially waiting a couple of months might be advantageous.
Yeah, which is something that we see all the time, right? It just, I guess, boils down to where your family is, because people, I mean, Fred says this all the time, but people like where they live, and people like where they live because everything seems natural to them, right? It's where they grew up. It's where they understand the coffee shop. It's where they don't have to put a GPS and find a place, right? They feel comfortable. So most of the times where you see people moving out of state, it's because like, oh, my in-laws live over there, or oh, my parents are getting older, I'm going to move out there. The biggest issue with California in general is that people move to other places for some time and then they usually come back.
Mm-hmm. Right? And now let's add on the fact that we have people that are required to return back to work 3 days a week. So does that mean they're going to move back here? Does it mean it's going to be a great thing for pet-a-terres?
We have a friend that's moving back to Philadelphia. Hey. Somewhere near Pfizer's making them be in person, and they moved out here thinking they're.
I'm licensed there. I can help them.
I think they have a house there, but they're moving back.
Okay. They moved.
That exact thing is they moved to San Diego, thinking that's where they were gonna live.
This is interesting.
And now Pfizer's like, nope, you got to be there 3 days a week, and they're commuting right now, but it's not going to last.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How many people moved to California, Hawaii, Costa Rica, who knows what, having to now move back? I mean, a lot of people I heard going to quit, changing jobs. So that's happening, but there's a slowdown in hiring. So not good timing because you're coming up to a recession. Recessions mean excuse for corporations to lay people off to save money, blah, blah, blah. I got to move back to hell from paradise.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of people in Silicon Valley that might have moved to Boulder, Colorado, or Colorado, live that kind of mountain lifestyle, even Tahoe, that now have to get back to Santa Clara.
Interesting. There's a lot of answers, but there's not a lot of property. That's the problem. So they're going to have to. So maybe this is a rebirth of condominiums. That they start moving faster because, maybe, hey, you share it with a couple of people, 3 of you buy a 3-bedroom and you're there different part times. That's an idea.
Yeah.
Or, okay, here's for the industrious real estate investor. Here's an idea. There are places called crash pads that airline personnel have. They own, because I know I had a flight attendant and she bought 3 houses. This is like 15 years ago. And the idea is she would have bunk beds basically in every room. She'd have her own room. And different people who, let's say, live in Charlotte, but had to work a flight first thing in the morning out of Philadelphia, would come in the day before and stay in the crash pad. And they pay flat fee per month. They have their own food, they're all in the same biz. This could really work for people, let's say in tech, a tech crash pad. buy it, and people sign a lease. All three sign a lease, so it's a long-term lease. But you rotate time, and maybe somebody will build an app, figure out how much time you use, it's how much you pay for the next month or something like that. Be interesting. Anyway, that's good use for a condominium.
Yeah, that's a great business idea. If anyone's listening,
There you go.
be entrepreneurial. Let's see. We're heading into September. René, what do you think? We've already talked about rates. We've talked about housing. What's your gut instinct on what's going to happen over the next month?
So, I mean, after Labor Day, right, there's influx of new inventory for people who want to put the property on the market before the holidays. You don't want to list in November and December for best price and best conditions. That's just not realistic. Now, we have markets like the Bay Area who will still have volume of buyers in the hot markets. San Diego, Los Angeles. There's going to be pockets where it doesn't matter if it's Christmas. I foresee us writing offers Thanksgiving and Christmas this year again. We've done that for the last 3 years. I don't expect that to be any different. If you're a buyer, I think that you should make offers on Thanksgiving and Christmas because you have to be less aggressive and people just want to move on. But I think this is probably the week where you have to realize, or you have to choose if you want to sell this year or wait until next year, until the second week of January, right? So it's an important week for those that are prepping their houses because it takes time, right? For a perfectly prepared listing, people always call us and ask, how quickly can you put our house on the market? I can put your house on the market in 1 week, but that's not me fully preparing to learn about your home, get all the disclosures and everything ready. It's rushing things, right? You really need a month to really cover everything, the A to Z of giving you all the data, right? Of what the pendings are and of what's selling and what's not selling, what repairs you should do, right? So you really need a month to get things prepared. So that's why I say that this is probably the week for you to decide, because even if right now you call us today, we have until October, right? And put it through the month of October. And you're safe from, if your house stays in the market 30 plus days, it's still not in the holiday season. So
no, that's good advice. What about, are you getting any kind of conversations about people wanting to hold off because of the election or just wanting to see what happens?
Nothing.
No, we have gotten people who believe that election seasons affect, the markets.
Oh yeah, they asked the question at least, but it didn't stop them from buying.
Yeah. So so to answer your question there, then that is
someone that may have that unfounded concern. What do you tell them?
Well, actually, there's a big concern that's right now in a lot of Twitter and a lot of just threads anywhere in social media. There's this idea that in California, for example, has passed a illegal immigrant 0% down.
I saw that.
So yes, the tagline looks scary and weird, right? That's not saying that we're providing illegal immigrants 0% mortgage. We are allowing them to be part of a raffle that a lot of first-time homebuyers are in. All these illegal immigrants also have to have the same qualifications that any other buyer.
Exactly. So it's green.
Yeah. So it's not limiting any homebuyers the percent people.
An illegal alien was someone who was brought here on a boat 35 years ago. There's 35-year-old illegal aliens who are working, have social security numbers and all that. It's not like it's the guys who are crossing over the border.
Yeah. So, but I think what the tagline forgets is that this is not just giving a blanket illegal immigrants, everybody gets a house for 0% down.
Right.
There's already a limited amount of, there's only I think it's 3,000, quote unquote, they're not grants, but they're, I forget the word. It's like a loan, disbursement. So there's only 3,000 of them. And from those 3,000, it's not going off for illegal immigrants. Maybe 10, 20 illegal immigrants that qualify and will be able to even be, have the capacity.
Exactly. And by the way, this is the thing I used to say for years, but they finally changed it only a few years ago. Did you know that anyone in the entire world could have qualified for an FHA mortgage? They did not care anything about your nationality for years. So, and that was done, I mean, Nixon had a chance, Ford had a chance, Reagan had a chance, Bush's had a chance, and Trump had a chance to get rid of that. Well, I'm sorry, I don't think Trump did. Let me take that back. But a lot of administrations had a chance to get rid of it, and they didn't. So same people who voted for them were complaining about the illegal aliens, and oh my God.
But now if you're coming from France or Germany and you're buying a house in the US, you can't get an FHA loan?
Correct.
Okay. When did that change?
I think it was Dodd-Frank, during Dodd-Frank.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. We're recording this, but I can't remember when.
Yeah, that's interesting. So so somebody coming from Germany or France or any country, Mexico.
Oh, you can buy it as an investor, and we have loans. You got to put like 35-40% down, and you're going to pay a higher interest rate. It can be done. Non-QM, non-qualified mortgage, also known as subprime. It'll forever be subprime, dressed as qualified, non-qualified mortgages.
If you're listening to this in another country and you're thinking about buying a house in the United States, talk to Fred and René. They can help you navigate the mortgage aspect.
And the real estate brokerage, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, and help you find a house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
then you might actually have to take them on a tour because they're probably not going to navigate the.
Why would you leave the south of France to come to, I don't know, Burbank?
Well, you might not come to Burbank. You might go to Laguna Beach.
That's true. We can do video tours.
Cool. Let's see. Any last words? Well, not last words because I expect to talk to you guys again next week. But any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
Be careful out there, kids. Do not let any agent tell you have to sign in for an open house. And if you do, sorry, Mickey Mouse. Don't give them your contact info. So you are allowed to go to an open house and then get a buyer broker. But they're going to want you to sign a contract that says what you're going to pay them. Read it. 2.5% is not normal or not what everybody charges.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. Real quick commercials for us. We have a beautiful near the beach listing in Costa Mesa. You can get this on Zillow and find it on Ogle Street. Very cool. We're having a listing coming out by the time this podcast comes out. It should be listed over in the East Bay, a monstrosity of a house. So if you got lots of need for space, things insane.
Yep. Almost 5,000 square feet. It's huge. See,
wow. It's huge.
And you can actually also build an extra ADU. It's permitted. So
wow. Even better. This sounds like, we could bring back the oh God, what was his name from Silicon Valley? What was the name of the guy who owned the house? I can't think of it. Anyway.
What was the guy that owned the house?
On Silicon Valley on this TV show.
Oh, the TV show. Hooli?
No, well, Hooli with the Google-ish name, but no. The guy who owned the house who allegedly died in, Thailand or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, we need to bring those houses back. This would be perfect for it.
I forget. Yeah, yeah. And if you haven't watched Silicon Valley, watch the show.
Yes, it's really like
the last episode of season 1 is just explains it all.
Yeah. Okay.
If you ever want to understand parallel processing, that's your answer right there.
There you go. Oh, yeah, it's fun in Silicon Valley. We do a lot of work in Silicon Valley, and people we deal with are great, but we know there's characters out there. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, that's enough talking.
That's enough. On that note, we've fixed real estate for another episode.
You guys.
Cheers.